All right. How about now? Is that better for you guys? Is that better for you guys now? We can hear it. I'm just waiting for confirmation that you can hear me. Okay, fantastic. Here we go. My apologies. I don't know what happened, but like I was saying, it is June 5th, 2025, and we have a packed show for you guys, and we're going to get right into it and have a little bit of fun. And out of the first gate, as you guys can already see, our Coast Guard has been doing big things. They seized enough Parmesan cheese to be able to cover the eastern seaboard. And, you know, that Parmesan cheese is Hunter Biden's favorite kind of cheese. But the Coast Guard has been trolling our waters and just cleaning up. Anything that enters across that little area where it's international waters and our waters, they're on top of it. In the Port Everglades, they have busted out several areas and cleaned up. And this is just for starters. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, that's just a little bit." No, they're going all over. They're even in the Caribbean doing the same thing, or Caribbean, however you guys prefer to say it, where they seized an additional $13.6 million. And I have a video clip of a little bit of their exploits. Check it out. Look at all that Hunter Biden Parmesan cheese. Yeah, so our Coast Guard is probably the most, you know, prolific form of our military out of all of the branches, because a lot of people don't understand that they are truly protecting our borders. And while our men and women may go overseas and fight to protect our borders, they are doing it right next to home. So we need to give a big shout out to the Coast Guard, because they rarely get any recognition, and they do this stuff on the regular. These just happen to be two of the largest busts. 211.3 million plus an additional 200 or 100 13.6 million. That's $224 million worth of cocaine that will never touch our streets. And that is a beautiful thing. It's a very, very beautiful thing. Another beautiful thing is that 47 is doing work. Trump is 47-0 against the federal courts, which we know are the inferior courts. On May 29, 2025, a federal court of appeals temporarily went out to go block Trump, like they have been. It's a known thing. And they want to shut down his sweeping tariffs. Well, the appeals court granted the Trump administration the request to pause the lower courts, aka inferior courts, decision on stopping his tariffs, allowing him to push forward with this. The next step is to go through a hearing where the case is scheduled to be around, I think, June 5th of actually, no, that's today. Yeah, I think it's today. The case was scheduled today, where they will or have already heard further arguments presented by both sides. Honestly, as I keep telling you guys, I'm so sick and tired of these lower courts doing the things that they're doing, and really slowing down progress, because everything Trump is doing is being done through EOs, which the next president can come in and just axe it. So why are you stopping it? What are you trying to do? We see them protecting people that are not American, your foreigners, as they would call them, but really and truly they're illegal aliens. They are whisking them out of courtrooms to protect them from ICE. They are demonizing their own people and telling them that they can't sleep on the streets, while putting these illegals up in fancy hotels and stuff. So where does it end? When does America and Americans start to get to be put first in this two-tier justice system? Because it's pretty crazy. So their argument is that the tariffs are going to cause an uproar in the United States. And if you've been watching the stock market and watching things unfold, we've seen that these particular things aren't unfolding the way that they are painting the pictures as to be for us. Trump is winning, and continues to win. And it's a beautiful thing to see him win because that means America wins, because he is one of the first presidents in modern history to want America to win. And that's just the facts. And if you don't like that, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And another person that has a big problem is Mr. Nadler. Well, Nadler's staff, they're being iced out, icy nads, as I like to call it. A female staffer was arrested for harboring rioters. Now, the media is trying to spin this to make it look like they just ran in and grabbed this woman and made out to do all these other things. Well, I have a video that says different. So let's check out this video.
New York Congressman Jerry Nadler says agents from the Department of Homeland Security forcefully entered his congressional office and handcuffed a member of his staff. Video shows the encounter, which Nadler called heavy-handed tactics. The staffer was not arrested. DHS says law enforcement believed protesters were inside the office. A DHS spokesperson released a statement saying, quote, officers identified themselves and explained their intent to conduct a security check. However, one individual became verbally confrontational and physically blocked access to the office.
Now, let's make sense of this. You're here with me. We're here together. We just heard what we heard. You're not dense. I'm not dense. So what's really going on? These cops came in and identified themselves as per the body cam footage. It's on the internet now. You can go watch it. But they identified themselves, let them know the purpose of being there. And pretty much everybody in the office was compliant except for this one person. So, of course, you got arrested. You deserve it. You're an idiot. Fundamentally an idiot, because they came for one purpose and you try to stop them, which, by the way, is a felony. You can't impede officers in an investigation because they're going to hit you with a felony. Be it on a state level, they're going to hit you with a felony because you are stopping them from getting people that are causing problems. So what should we feel bad for this woman? And Mr. Gerald Nadler is speaking out saying that this is all because of Trump. No, it's because your staff is stupid. And I wish they would have raided your office a little bit more and found out all of your dirty secrets, because you're disgusting. That's just me. I just got to give my 2 cents on that. Jerry Nadler is trash. And so is his staff, as you can see. But on the brighter, greener news, let's say bye-bye to the Green New Deal. So the 24 G&D are on the chopping block. Trump is axing a lot of clean energy products that were put in place under Joe Biden. And, AOC was all about this Green New Deal. Exxon's Baytown is being axed, and so much more is going to fall and develop from this later on. And some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with, but I think Trump ultimately is doing a good thing by slowing down spending. The Department of Energy canceled $3.7 billion in grants that were meant to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Let's take a step back. Let's put on our conspiracy hats. China produces more greenhouse gas than America. India produces more greenhouse gas than America. Common sense would say that their air quality would be substantially worse, their people would be sicker, and it would be degrees and degrees hotter there. Well, it's not. It's barely 1 degree hotter there on average compared to our summer months. So, what's really going on? I think these things should be cut. ExxonMobil in Texas and several other efforts to cut carbon emissions in the cement, food, beverage industries are all being done with these programs that were going on under Biden. But really and truly, it was just a money grab. If you really want to be honest, I'm just going to say the quiet part out loud. It was a money grab. These people went in, got a lot of money for all these companies to sit on. And these companies would then funnel the money back to those in Congress. We know how this works. We've seen it. And if you haven't been seeing it or don't believe it, you're probably from Canada or just dumb. Disrespectfully, of course. But that's just me. Rich Nukes, there is a deal that has been made with Iran. The deal is to enrich their uranium. Iran's position in this is open to the idea of regional uranium enrichment consortium to provide some things for the United States. So the United States is allowing them to do this on their terms, per the agreement, where their nuclear power and enrichment will be used for their country and our country. And if you haven't noticed, Trump has been trying to push nuclear power in the United States, or at least that's what the media won't say. The U.S.'s stance with this overall, President Trump is stating that the U.S. will not allow Iran to enrich your uranium under any potential nuclear programs like bombs, because you know those people like to blow up over there. He won't allow that, but what he will allow is for them to push forward in uranium enrichment for the purposes of nuclear energy, which I think that's pretty cool overall. There are some concerns, however, that the proposal will allow them to later on safeguard their nuclear programs and so on and so forth. But there's going to be risk with any potential deals that be made out there, because they're deals. Somebody's going to get what they want out of a deal, as if the other person gets out of the deal what they want, because nobody's going to just go in and say, whatever you want in the deal, you get, we don't get anything. So I'm pretty sure there are some implications in the future that could lead to a darker path potentially. But as for right now, this is going to benefit both Iran and America. So I'm here for it. But I would like to see later on how it unfolds. So we will be following that story closely. In other news, SCOTUS has done some things. They've done some things, and there's a lot of things going on. But Trump is doing something that I'm not totally for. If anybody knows what the Patriot Act is, it was signed into law under a Democratic Congress and George Bush, and a big advocate for this was Joseph Robinette Biden. He was the one that actually authored the Patriot Act. Well, the Patriot Act sunsetted, then they have the USA Act, and this allowed for the federal government to surveil on U.S. people. It's the very thing that allowed Barack Obama to surveil Donald Trump and hear the things that he heard and see the things that they saw, and which led to, in my opinion, his first impeachment. But I digress. Trump is seeking to use Planeteer to use their database to get a larger database on every American in the United States. I'm not with that. So people always say that we're unable to demonize Trump for things that he's done. I'm demonizing him. I think this is one of the dumbest ideas he could ever do, because he's doing this in the name of safety, that if he gets a database on every single American, then non-Americans will be easier to be plucked out. I get the incentive. I get the gold or silver lining to this, but it's trash. This is basically the Patriot Act on crack, but they're doing it in your face now. And if this goes through, I'm not going to be happy. So I would implore anyone that listens to the show, get your pens ready and get to writing. You need to be writing your Congress right now to shut this down. You can do this by notice or affidavit or phone call or email. This is one of those situations where they can hear you verbally, and you need to tell them, do not let Trump do any of this, because really and truly, any database on Americans is unconstitutional. And albeit I support Donald Trump, I don't support all of his moves. This is fundamentally ignorant of him. It's very, very dumb. It's going to cost a substantial chunk of change to get this going as well, but this is stupid, and I'm not with it. So there is my bash on Donald Trump for you guys that are, oh, you never talk bad about Donald Trump. That's my bash on him. There are privacy concerns with this because of reasons. You know it. You know it. I'm not going to harp on it much longer, but you see it. And if you don't agree with me and you think this is okay, you should move to China or the UK, where they monitor everything you do. When you poop, when you breathe, when you sleep, when you are intimate, all the things. They are on top of all the things there. So let me know in the comments if you guys agree with this or disagree with it. Now, this next story I have for you guys is pretty rough, and I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of issues with this. This story comes from something that I bet most of you didn't know about. This is ensuring the unthinkable. There are schools that have been taking out insurance policies on your students in case of a mass shooting. And their whole purpose behind this is that there's growing concerns that the taxpayers in these areas, in these states, are having to pay for these schools to be torn down and new ones to be built. First off, why are we tearing the schools down just because a tragedy happens there? That's crazy. It was taxpayers' money that built it, and you're using taxpayer money to tear it down, and then taxpayer money to build another school. That's stupid. But that's not the real issue here. What's crazy is, and I don't think anybody in their right mind would disagree with me on this. What's crazy is they're taking out insurance policies on kids. What? What? It's called actor shooter insurance policy, and it's apparently a growing demand around the United States for this as school shootings continue and grow. I don't care who you are, what you do. That is incentivization to let these things happen. As my friend says, people have killed their spouses for insurance money. So if people would do that to their spouses or family members, what do you think a school that has no real vested interest in your children will do? This is absolutely grotesque and disgusting. The insurance features, as they call them, are typically a range of expenses, including crisis management cost, legal fees in case something goes down with the school and they get sued. So they're using the insurance money that you pay into this, because it's all coming out of basically taxpayer money. They're using this insurance money to defend themselves if something legally arises. And it's crazy because the only thing I can see out of this being good is the counseling services they would use to support the students that are still there for grief. But ultimately, this is trash, and it's not something that should exist. And I wholeheartedly think, believe, and feel, I rarely do that, that this is an incentivization for them to allow these things to happen and not do their best efforts to stop it. Why are we putting so much money into insurances when fundamentally all we have to do is just beef up the security, add more measures, arm the teachers, put more SRO officers there, hire a security guard that's a veteran that's trained, but they would rather spend money on insurance for your students in the event that something happens. So you can sit on that and let it marinate a little bit. In other news, Harvard is in trouble again, and I know people probably have Harvard fatigue, but this is actually important. Harvard's Walking Dead, a former Harvard morgue manager, pleads guilty to trafficking, yes, trafficking human body parts. On May 22nd, 2025, a lodge admitted to being involved in illegal sales and transportation of human body parts. So basically, if your loved one died and they used the coroner's office in Harvard, which happens a lot because most universities will take that position instead of having a local coroner's office, they do it with the school because it gives them cadavers and so on and so forth to work on. This man was out here trafficking body parts. So your loved one passes away, he pulls out a kidney. Your loved one passes away, he pulls out a spleen or whatever else that's needed for the black market. The natures of the crime was found to be that he sold various body parts, including organs, brains. Brains are weird because why? What does that do? But the organs are crazy, where which they were supposed to be disposed of after educational use or other things. But this person was just taking them and selling them. There's a lot of ethical issues here, but this is just downright disgusting. It's trafficking. Any form of trafficking like that is not good. So after having all this Harvard fatigue, I feel that this would be one of the best way to put Harvard to bed for at least a little while, and hopefully they stay out of the news. But this is gross. This is pretty gross. In other news, access is denied. The DOJ Attorney General cuts access to the judicial nominees, which I don't. Oh, yeah, I do. Haha. Check it out. They're cutting the access to the judicial nominees. The DOJ has curtailed the ABA's role in vetting the judicial nominees, which, if you really think about it, it's allowing them to get a heads up and a bias evaluation on these nominees in order to know whether or not they want them in office or not. Because nominees are appointed and not voted on, this is a problem. So Pam Bondi accused the ABA of doing this, like I said, to circumvent the system so they could get the people in office that they want. So basically, they're filtering certain nominees into the pool so they can make more of a shoe in that they get the people in office that they want in office. And as you can see with this lawfare they've been doing, these judges have been doing this for a while, and the ABA has been doing this for a while. So they're just shutting this down. I think we need to get a stronger restraint on the judicial branch as far as the lower courts goes, because nobody pays attention to them. They only pay attention to SCOTUS, but the lower courts are the ones that are doing all of the dirt. And in my opinion, it's not what we want, because who's to say that we get another president in and they don't do the same thing to that president, thinking based off of their values and morals and platitudes instead of what is actually constitutional. The DOJ's decision reflects a belief that the ABA is no longer able to serve as a fair arbiter for the nominees and their qualifications. I agree. I agree. After seeing all the things that Donald Trump has gone through just in the few months he's been in office, from the lower inferior courts, as it's put in the Constitution, I wholeheartedly agree. I I think this should be something that goes into law, as a matter of fact, just so we can get a stranglehold on the situation. In other news, more corruption is being found in our government. There was a FBI mole that had been leaking classified documents, and this person was an anti-Trumper, and he was arrested on May 29th. And they've just been going through that. This person has been vocal about being against Trump, and even. And I know most people are like, well, all he's doing is this. Well, one, he's selling secrets, and he had been plotting on taking Donald Trump out. You don't want people in the FBI like this. You don't want people like this anywhere. He's facing the serious charges of espionage, which could have a significant legal consequence if they are able to prove it. But I think they're probably going to take him up more so on being so vocal about wanting to cause harm to Donald Trump. I think that is 18 USC 871, where you're not allowed to speak of ill will towards the president as far as death goes. But this is something I will be following up on for sure to see how it goes. And I think overall, especially after James Comey put out the whole 8647, I think we need to put these people in town square and make an example of them. Not take their lives, but actually make an example of them. Throw the book at them, put them in prison, and make them an example so people will not feel so cavalier about saying they want to take out the president. That's crazy to me. So more corruption overall is just keeps being exposed under Donald Trump. We have our military with multiple leaks left and right, selling secrets and even harboring terrorists that have planned to cause harm to our country with pipe bombs and stuff like that. Then we have people in the New York Police Department that were spying on U.S. citizens and CCP people that moved to this country to escape persecution in China. It's crazy, and even our universities are infiltrated and corrupt. So I'm very interested in seeing how this plays out with this guy. And again, I think the justice system, if they do their job, Pam Bondi, talking to you, you should throw the book at this person and make a full-fledged example of him and James Comey. That is the only way to do it, to give and restore faith to the people in our justice system. Throw the book at them. Make an example of them. Get rid of the two-tiered mentality and really put your own down. And that will restore faith in the American justice system overwhelmingly. at least in my opinion. I can't speak for anybody else, but I would be overjoyed to see one of your own fall. In this case, two of them. So, Volkswagen has said 9 to the tariffs, a massive investment to the American industry to avoid tariffs. Germany has moved to do this because they are really up in arms on this tariffs. So for all those that keep saying that the tariffs aren't working, we are getting multiple companies back to back to back moving their operations to the United States. We have Taiwan that has moved multiple operations and built factories to do chips here, not just under Biden's CHIPS Act, but actually under deals that Donald Trump has made. This would be a massive investment in the U.S. Auto industry and auto parts industry, and it would help navigate the tariffs for Germany imposed by the United States. But it would beef up our industry. It would make jobs. It would make the parts a little bit cheaper, because the largest part of pricing when it goes into anything is shipping, because there's so many logistics that we as consumers don't see, and so many moving parts behind the scenes that we don't see. We think, oh, I ordered it and the company just put it in the mailbox and it came to my house from the mail lady. That's not how that works. There's so many things that go on in this. The overall decisions with this move from the U.S. government has been described as a fair and constructive deal. So I'm hoping to see this actually unfold like the other auto industries that have done this. And maybe we can get a whole auto industry from around the world making and manufacturing cars and trucks right here. And it would be very, very advantageous for Trump to push this deal and many more like it, because that's where we hurt the most. Our auto industry has been out of control lately, and it would be nice to have more competition here, because competition breeds greatness, and it tightens up all of those loose ends where these companies don't get to just have all the fun they want with us while making us pay and foot the bill. Trump strikes Diddy Oil. I was remiss to add this, but I'm going to add it anyway. Donald Trump has been asked what he would do in pardoning P. Diddy. And 50 Cent has been quite vocal about this, because he's saying that's a no, dog. Don't do it. That's one of the many men that need to stay behind bars.
A page 6 question, but back when you hosted The Apprentice, you mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. From what I read, I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. You know, it's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So I can't, it's not a popularity contest. So I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Yeah. Trump, if you pardon Diddy, which I will pose this as a question on my channel here. If Donald Trump pardons Diddy, will he lose your support? For me, that's a Stone Cold Steve Austin, hell yeah. You're going to lose my support unequivocally. And I will do my dangdest to speak out against you in every way, shape, or form, no matter how much good you do. Because at that point in time, you're no different than, Ketanji Brown Jackson, that Supreme Court judge that was real lenient on pedophiles. These people are a disease, a stain, and a fungus among us. In other news, there has been a fungus among us. There is agricultural terrorism in the United States. Through investigations, 2 Chinese nationals that were in school, of course, have been arrested and charged for smuggling a fungus that had been described as a potential agro-terrorist terroristic weapon. The fungus poses significant threats to our food and crop in the United States, and that would be one thing that we don't need. We already got a lot going on right now, and we don't need this to happen. The nature of the fungus overall is noted to be a potential use for the agricultural. They call it agroterrorism, which refers to the deliberate destruction of crops by way of biological means. Really and truly, I know they like to give fun names to this stuff, but really and truly, this is bioterrorism, which, if I recall, in the 70s, they had a convention where multiple countries convened that, and they signed that they would not use biological weapons. And this is no different, because if you biologically destroy our food, we're going to starve. It's no different if you use Ebola. One just takes the person out immediately. The other one, the people suffer. And then they either riot and take each other out, or they just pass away due to hunger. I think these two should not be shipped back to China. I think these two should stay right here in the United States in a U.S. prison. Because why? Why? That's what I think. That's probably not what will happen. There'll have to be some conferring with the Chinese government, because they are Chinese nationals and students. But that's not a good thing. Overall, they're saying that the fungus was actually potentially made in North America. At least that's what they're saying, which honestly, in my opinion, that raises a lot of questions, because that could be prevalent all throughout the United States already. So I'm worried about that. If anybody wants to take a look at what it looks like, here you go. Not much to look at. Doesn't look very scary. That's like a baggie that's empty. So you think. But that little thing right there could potentially wipe out many, many crops in the United States. So hopefully the United States gets a grasp on this and finds out where it is being manufactured, because it is being manufactured, and get a stay on it, because I'm not with losing stuff in the United States, because we work too hard here overall for our food. I grew up as a farm kid. I understand the ins and outs of it. So our farmers do too much to lose their whole yield for a year because somebody wants to be a terrorist douchebag. That's just me. But in lighter news, in light of, it being Pride Month and everything, parents are hitting the streets. Yeah. Parents are up in arms over the gay Sesame Street segment. And the GOP lawmakers have criticized Sesame Street for their Pride posts and their Pride episodes and stuff like that. And people are saying now that they want to defund PBS. Well, the president's already done that. NPR and PBS caught the hands. These parents are going around accusing PBS of grooming kids, and it fundamentally is. Kids need to be kids. They like bright colors, fun sounds, and all that other stuff. But why are we perpetuating a sexuality? Why? Why are you telling people it's okay to be gay? Why are you telling people it's okay to be straight? You shouldn't be talking about it at all. These are children. So yes, you are grooming your younger audience, and yes, you should be defunded. There's a big debate in the media over this, because the media is very, very loose and liberal, and they want to save the day because you got to protect the pride in the LGBTQ. Woo, whatever. Let's protect the children. Let's stop protecting a lifestyle, a lascivious lifestyle, and start protecting the children. Keep the crap away from the kids. This is what started the whole Save Our Kids, along with trafficking. They keep perpetuating these ideologies that push a fundamental disease on our nation. Because if everybody's gay, we're not reproducing. Our nation begins to wax and wane and go away. And that's not a shot at gay people. That's just facts. You can call it what you want. Call me what you want, but it's the truth. I said what I said. Happy Pride Month. Check this video out. I do have a video on this.
March 26th, right? This is Catherine Mayer in her testimony before Congress. Jim Jordan's doing the questioning, and it went like this.
Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
In the D.C. area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration.
87 to 0, and you're not biased.
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
And there are also questions about the reporting on Hunter Biden's.
Yeah, they go on to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. I'm not going to get into that because we already talked about his Parmesan cheese addiction earlier. However, to add on to this, NPR, like I stated, is on the chopping block as well to be defunded. Why are we funding any public news services through taxpayer funding anyway? So we saw here that NPR is biased, and we see here that that Sesame Street on PBS is grooming kids. Why are they being funded by taxpayer money? There's no benefit. There's none. Most kids and parents don't even watch TV anymore. They're on their phones 24/7 scrolling TikTok or Instagram or Twitter for that matter. So it's crazy that people think that this is a thing and that we should keep supporting it, because there's actually a lot of outrage going on about this because they want to save it. But honestly, I think if there was no agenda as far as LGBT or, bias, nobody would support this. Like, as far as saving these two public media outlets, they would just let it go and not even bat an eye at it. So I find it to be crazy. And for a follow-up here for you guys, because I gotta talk about the eggs, because they made a huge stink for like 3 months about eggs, and by them I mean the Democrats. Oh, the prices of eggs! Oh, well, the eggs are down 61% since Trump took office, and they're continuing to drop. Matter of fact, a lot of things are dropping, and a lot of things that are good are going up. So Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. The eggs are coming down, and faith in Trump is rising. His approval rating has risen. So eggs are down, approval ratings up. I like it. I like it a lot. So this is a late addition to the show here. I have 2 late additions here. MAGA versus Musk. What is everybody's thoughts on this? I'm curious to know what everyone's thoughts is, because this is funny to me. This is funny. I have been going through Twitter since I've heard about this, and it's just like the biggest thing in the world for the Democrats. It's like a win for them because they've been getting their tails kicked left and right. This is a win for them because they think Musk is coming out as a shining hero. No, he's playing you. Musk is one of the greatest grifters of all times. He grifted his way into the MAGA movement because the left pushed so far left, it made him go right because he wasn't moving. And because they wanted his trans child, whatever that means, to be more trans and fight against their authoritarian father. Musk put on a good show to get what Musk wanted. That's what this boils down to. And they're fighting because they're 2 prideful, egotistical maniacs. It is the definition of a petty meat measuring contest. These 2 men are out here billionaires. One's a president. One had the president's ear. It's a meat measuring contest. So they're taking to Twitter and Truth, and they've been going back and forth at it. It's kind of funny. So this is what Donald Trump said on Truth. Elon was wearing thin, whatever that means, Trump. I asked him to leave. So this is a lie. This is how I know they're just being petty with each other. You didn't ask him to leave. He only had like 130 or 180 days that he could remain as a special interest employee of the federal government. He would have to either walk away from his billion-dollar companies and become a federal employee, or, yeah, you get it. No, the man would be an idiot or a fool to walk away from his billion-dollar corporations to become a federal employee. It just is what it is. But he goes on to say, I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted. He knew that for months I was going to do, and he went crazy. Well, this is what Elon Musk replied with on X. Time to drop the really big bomb. The real Donald Trump is in Epstein's files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. This is funny. First and foremost, Elon, I gave it to Trump, now I'm going to give it to you. You're lying. You were so far up that man's butt because you were getting your agendas and your needs met and your ego stroked. And you got a lot of, television time because you're socially awkward, but you made it work. And you got these subsidies and all these other things and that you wanted out of the deal. But you're lying here because if he was really on that list and you had that information, one, they probably wouldn't have let you left. And two, this would have already been released. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. This would have already been released. They went through 34 felonies, a rape case with E. Jean Carroll that wasn't a case because it was civil, because rape is a crime. Yeah, they went through all of these hoops, the election integrity issues and all this other stuff, when they could have just released his name, redacted everyone else's in the documents, and said Donald Trump was implicated and we have proof that he was down there messing with kids on that island. It would have been done and over with. He would have been gone. Musk, you wouldn't have stood beside him. But you know as well as I do, Elon Musk, as brilliant as you seem to be, that Donald Trump is not on that list. Nor has he been, nor will he be. He might be in the flight logs going from Florida to New York and New York to Florida, but he did not go to that island. And rich people rent rich people's planes all the time when their planes are down. So, Elon, why you capping? Why you capping? And to end our segment for today, guys, and again, in light of Pride Month, I gotta stand up for the pride. White women are winning. Straight white women are winning. The Supreme Court, happy Pride Month, by the way. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 to make it easier for individuals who file lawsuits for discrimination or reverse discrimination, as they call it, to just be able to do it just like the people that are discriminated against. And it is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Justice Jackson, Ketanji Brown Jackson, which I have my aunt with her, but she has been very constitutional as of late, gave her opinion saying that, hey, why are you guys doing this? The law emphasizes what discrimination is, how it works, and anybody can do it. It shouldn't be easier for one demographic of people versus another demographic of people to be able to file a claim against this. But check this video out. This is pretty awesome.
The argument in this case is Marlene Ames, who is the plaintiff or the petitioner here, Chris, said she was discriminated against because from the moment she got a gay supervisor, everything sort of went wrong for her. First, she was demoted, and then she failed to achieve a different promotion because the people around her were all sharing the same sexual orientation. The justices today at argument didn't seem to buy the idea that there should be one standard for people from majority groups and a different standard in Title VII employment discrimination cases for others. In fact, at one point, Justice Kagan even asked the parties, if you guys all agree, essentially, on the fact that there's the same standard for everyone in terms of what your burden of proof is, why are we even here? It seemed like all of the justices had a sort of consensus after listening to all of the parties that maybe the lower court made a mistake in requiring more from Ms. Ames, but that nobody really wanted to mess with the fundamental test for what it takes to prove employment discrimination.
That's a dub for straight white women. Man, that's something to be prideful in right there during the month of June. Straight white women winning. And this is another dub for women in general because women have been, oh man, right in the crosshairs of the LGBT. It's more specifically the T's, but women have been getting the short end of the stick for a very long time in general. So this is a dub. And this is another win for real pride, humanity, instead of a shake and a leg for a small demographic of people. If you want to have your pride and your rainbows and stuff like that, do it on your own time. You don't need a televised segment to be able to do that. Do what you do. It's sexuality. Do it behind closed doors. We don't care about who you're doing, how you're doing it, where you're doing it, or your pride. Do it behind closed doors. and it makes things a lot easier. Our Bible verse for today is seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face continually. Remember his marvelous works that he has done, his wonders, and the judgment of his mouth. God is good. God bless America. And thank you guys for joining me. And make sure you aren't one of the ones who are missing the forest for the trees. Have a good night.